The Japanese refer to the sound of this instrument as sour plums. And I think you can imagine why if you cast your eyes over the faces of the audience when this instrument is being played, you'll see them wincing in a rather similar manner to someone sucking sour plums.
Certain other cultures around the world have become quite incorporated and integrated into Western culture, and specifically British culture. You know, we think of the large black and Asian populations in this country, and there are quite a lot of crossovers. And I think that one of the reasons why perhaps there hasn't been between Japanese and Western culture is the fact that, to some extent, on this kind of first hearing, it actually seems quite difficult, and this might put people off.
You see them asking themselves, well, it's not really music.
Then you begin to ask yourself the question, what is music? And you begin to say, well, you begin to explore for yourself, you know, the roots of where you come from.
Hey!
So, I mean, I could make the second if absolutely necessary. It's only the one night of the week when I'm not doing something, and Ian's already out.
What about Friday evening at 6?
Yeah,
How's that?
we could have rehearsal there.
Tuesday's no good.
Yeah, Tuesday's fine.
Oh, I thought you were teaching in Darla.
Yeah, in the evening.
Hartlepool. Oh, daytime's fine.
Evening is fine.
Oh, right. I'll go to bed.
I don't understand this. I've lost a bit of paper where I wrote all the stuff.
So, how did it start off? I had a long interest in Japanese music, which developed over the years, playing and listening to music. And as I started to do more educational work, it seemed to make sense to build it into the work I was doing in a practical way. And it also made sense to actually try and get myself across to Japan to learn the instruments and the music properly.
Here's a Sam.
She's got it.
He's good. Parrots fly, fly up high into the sky.
There was a robber named Hirosawa, and he went to the house of Kawano, and he stole everything in the house. There was one thing he didn't take, and that was Kawano's hichiriki. Because of all the things in the house, it's the one thing that he knew nobody would want, and he couldn't sell, and he had no use for it. And Kawano came home, and he found his house completely empty, save for a hichiriki sitting on the tatami mat. So he picked up the hichiriki and he began to play a mournful tune. Hirosawa was by this time many miles away, he heard the strains of the hichiriki. And in Japan, the hichiriki is associated with moral fortitude, and the sounds of the hichiriki pricked the conscience of the robber Hirasawa, and he came back and returned all the goods.
Through Adrian, I had an interest in Japanese music also. And we played together in London for a while in the Gagaku Orchestra, which is the English version of the Imperial Court music. But at the time I was living up in Gateshead and working through the Artists Agency on a 3-year residency as musician in residence for the museum service in Tyne and Wear, using the galleries as a kind of resource and starting point for musical improvisation and composition. And Lucy and I talked quite a bit about how we like to be able to extend the project if possible through linking in with what Adrian was doing and what I was doing and the Japan Festival.
And we thought, well, great, let's go for it.
Very good. It's a harp.
When you got strings on.
You give an instrument to a child, and although you know how it's played and it seems quite simple to you, they can spend quite a long time just looking at it and thinking, how on earth do I get a sound out of this? And you can explore a lot about sound just through working out how does this instrument play. Didn't you play like that standing up? Okay, don't tell me, just show me, do what you think you do. Rest on something. Do you think that's how it's meant to sound? No. How do you think it's meant to sound? Is that a nice sound?
No. Yes.
Why is it not a nice sound? See, it's touching the wood here. Listen. Let's see what that sounds like.
That's good. That's better. No.
And this is the second one.
It's high.
So what do you think's happened to this side? What's your name? Okay, Jonathan, you see if you can play that tune along with us. Does that sound right? Try B-A-F.
Yes.
Very interesting hearing Adrian's piece. He's had commissioned. I was expecting it to do things like a Western orchestra does. We have harmonies and we have contrapuntal rhythms and so on. And yet this doesn't happen in Adrian's piece, because what it's doing is taking certain aspects of Japanese music and looking at them and developing them into the kind of things that you can do with Western instruments and the kind of things that you can do with a school's youth orchestra.
When the instruments are combined together and the type of harmonies they play, the type of sound textures that come out are quite harsh and unyielding the first time you hear it. And what's been really great is to take a group of children or students and play them a tape of this music and they all go, "Oh, I don't like that, it sounds horrible." And then to lead them through it, through questioning, why don't you like it? What is it about it that you don't like? And without realizing it, they start to talk about harmony and rhythm and melody. And then, with a few Japanese instruments and some Western instruments, the kind of things that you'd find in any school resource, like tuned percussion, keyboards, you can allow them to recreate the sounds of a Japanese piece, just feeding off what they've already explained to themselves about what's different about the harmony, what's different about the rhythm. And we've made some wonderful pieces which sound remarkably like Japanese music, but because they've made it themselves and they've understood the process and they've played it themselves, they go away thinking, wow, it's really great, that music.
What I like about both Adrian and Hugh is the combination of their own creativity and the way in which they're able to use that as a spark to enable other people to develop their belief in what they can do. I think also the interest in a very broad scope, not just in one particular form, but in learning about other disciplines and working out how those can be explored in their own work.
Isn't very well defined. And this bit here, so it's like...
Looks like that bit out of Mary Poppins where the children are tidying up and all the things fall about them.
I like the idea very much that at the moment it's all kind of disjointed, but there's certain things that are solid, but everything else you think you might come together.
It's like certain people believe in, what is it, destiny, and that certain things are planned ahead of time before it's actually going to happen, but other things are like uncertain.
Go on, Aaron.
The bare trees have no leaves. That's 6 sounds, and I'd like the first line to have 5 sounds if we can. So how can we change? The bare trees have no leaves. Just shorten it a little bit.
Bare trees have no leaves.
Well done, Kathy. Right, I'll cross out the.
Bare trees have no leaves. Snow floating down to the ground.
Brown, white, misty. How about the last line? Any ideas? White bumps on brown trees. How are we going to do that?
How are you going to do a white bump on a brown tree?
This is like a ramble.
Bare trees have no leaves. Snow floating down to the ground. White bumps on brown trees.
Spring-Bacrao 日は落ちて胸を濡らすよ
Yeah, they loved it. So, wonderful. Yeah, it was great. And then we built up compositions together throughout the morning, improvised. So it was good extra experience because I've done a lot of, well, quite a bit of improvisation work with them so far. It's all part of the multicultural aspect of GCSE, isn't it? So, you know, and it's helpful for me to get some extra input.
It's so important, I think, that the staff that are involved in the project are committed to it and are interested. And of course, as soon as they are, that they should actually become more involved and they should become performers and composers as well. Because only really by doing the thing, well, not only, but to a large extent, only by doing it can you really inspire others to actually want to do it.
You've been very concerned that it shouldn't just be a one-off experience of something so-called exotic, but it should actually be something where people are getting new ideas that they can use in the longer term. So we've been very careful that there can be kind of planning sessions with groups of teachers to look at the kind of ideas behind the project and to talk about how those ideas could be followed through in the longer term.
In one senior school, she's actually going to now incorporate teaching Japanese musical composition in years 1, 2 and 3 because we found it kind of so successful as a method of actually working.
And I think to me that's the benefit of cross-cultural activities, that you actually begin to explore your own way of looking at something by looking at somebody else's. I think it begins to make people aware that there's a very wide world out there and that there's an awful lot of things that they don't know and that it would be a great pleasure to find out about.
Hey,